The folks ain't got a good attention span. Because we live now. All right, 1 second here. Give me like a. All right. All right. Good evening, everyone. And for those who are Adventists, happy Sabbath. Happy Sabbath to everybody. You are logging on to the Good Night Show. We're excited to have everybody here. We're excited to discuss our topic tonight. So we're just happy to have our guest. We're still waiting on one guest, but we have one particular guest, and I'm excited to have him on. Just real quick introduction as people are logging in, but Pastor Bushner was my chaplain when I was at Oakwood University, and he is still a hilarious guy. Just in talking to him in 30 seconds, I can see he's still funny. But he was a chaplain at Oakwood when I was there. It was an awesome time. He was an awesome chaplain, and I'm excited to hear more about basically like his ministry. First off, so he's out there in Orlando, Florida, at Patmos Chapel. So I'm gonna let him introduce himself and then talk about some of the work that they're doing, and then we're gonna go right into our discussion. Because as you know, we try not to keep you long here. Bless your heart. We try not to keep y'all long. We know our attention span ain't that great around here, so we're definitely going to try to keep the show moving as soon as possible. So right now we have Pastor Bushner, and I'm gonna let him go ahead and introduce himself. Go ahead, Pastor.
Well, man, once again, it's a joy to be with you tonight. I'm excited, always great to be able to share. Yes, my name is Dr. Rupert Bushner Jr. I was a chaplain at Oakwood University for 5 awesome years. In fact, I believe 06 to 10, so actually 4 years. But then I came back and started pastoring at Mount Calvary there in Huntsville. But I was a chaplain. Your host was an incredible student, talented and creative. I thank God for his ministry, for what he's done and doing. And I'm glad to be here. Yes, I'm pastoring actually in Orlando, Florida, actually Apopka, which is outside of Orlando, but we're right close next door. It's almost like Huntsville and Madison, if you think about in Alabama. But Apopka, Florida is where we have what is called the Well Activity Center. Now, what's amazing here is I'm co-pastoring with one of my good friends who I went to school with, Dr. James Doggett, actually founder of Madison Mission, pastored all over the country, and now he's with me. Together, we are together. I came on 2 years after he had already been here, but we're co-pastoring here at the Patmos Chapel here in Orlando, Florida. And the Lord put on his heart, actually, the church needed renovation, and there was a lot of work needing to be done. The Lord put on his heart to go look, and he found a building. In fact, it's a sports complex. Yes. When you come to Orlando, Florida, you want to not only come see Mickey, but you've got to come to the Well Activity Center. It's like a tourist event. Well, the Well Activity Center, let me say from the very beginning, is 100,000 square feet building. It's a sports complex. And we called it the Well. Now, this is what's amazing. We were dialoguing one day, and I talking to Pastor Doggett, and he and I were talking, and I came up and I said, man, the well. And we had preached some sermons about the woman at the well. And so we said the well. And the reason why we said the well was because acronymically, well means where everyone lives life. Now get this, where everyone lives life is the nexus where people come, and they're already coming. See, the problem with most churches and most of our ministry is that we want the people to come to us opposed to being in the thoroughfare right there where the road cross, where people are living their lives. And the well, people are already coming. So let me just give you a brief rundown. If you go to the website, you'll see the Well or Patmos Chapel. We do drive-in church. Right now, we're outside on our stairwell, and we're preaching, and the people come, they tune in to 88.7 in the parking lot, and they're listening to us preach. And so we're on the drive-in church right now. But what's amazing, the complex, it has 3 full court basketball courts side by side. That's right, 3 full court basketball court where they have basketball tournaments. They have AAU tournaments. They have indoor volleyball, indoor soccer. So that's the basketball. And then we have a karate studio that's rented out by one of our clients or patrons. And then we have a gymnastics studio that's large. We have a baseball cage. Now, the baseball cage is where we are renovating for the sanctuary that will seat about 1,200 people. And we have 800 on the floor, 400 in the balcony. And then we have upstairs, there is an auditorium that we're actually renovating to be for banquets. But right now we're going to be worshiping there. That seats about 600 people. And we're going to use it for weddings and banquets in the future. And then we also have a cafe on the second floor where you can come and get an Impossible Burger. You know, so what's amazing is that God blessed us with this facility. And it's a blessing because we're able to do our food pantry. People come and drive through. And I mean, we're blessed. And so Dr. Doggett and I are doing ministry in a way that the church doors are actually open every day of the week. And so there's something going on, and we're interfacing, meeting people where everyone is living life. We're able to talk to them and eventually point them to the real water where you'll never thirst again. That water.
Amen. Amen. I appreciate you giving us that. You know, I was talking to you earlier. I know having you and Pastor Doggett at one spot, I know that's got to be great for people that are there. But it's exciting, definitely, to hear about your ministry. Esperanza has just logged on, so I'm gonna have her. Esperanza is also somebody I went to school with. Well, I went to school with Esperanza, and so it was great. She is one of the most intelligent people that I've ever met, you know, in my life. I served with her when I was USM student body president. I served with her on the Senate. She was one of the senators, and she was nobody to be playing with during that time. Bless her heart, she's here. I'm excited to have her. You want to say a quick hello, real quick? 1 second. Let me put you on there.
Oh my goodness.
There she is.
I am here. Y'all caught me on wash day. My women don't know what I'm talking about, so it's all in my face. But I am present.
It's a good thing. Solid in profiling. I remember Esperanza.
Yeah.
It's good to see you.
You too.
Yeah,
Yes. Yes.
So we're going to get right into it. So one of the posts recently, you know, as everybody know, that we have been so recently we have been dealing with a lot of issues as it relates to Black Lives Matter, police brutality. I already know here in Detroit, we've had some major issues with police and protesters, a lot of clashes and things like that. So of course, everybody is on the edge about this Black Lives Matter police type thing. And so I want to show a post that the great Dr. Bushner did the other day. And I want to show his post, and we'll go from there. So let me try to make sure that I know what I'm doing, because, all right, I think I'm here. All right. Let's see, can I share this post? All right, so that's not the right post. All right, here we go. So if people can see that, hopefully, let me try to zoom in here so people can actually see it. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if that's going to work. But anyways, I'm going to read it for you just in case you can't see it. But the great Dr. Bushner says, Joe and I were walking this morning as we usually do and ran into an Apopka police officer. We asked if we could pray over him, and he said yes. The spirit fell, and we were so blessed by this encounter. With tears in his eyes, he thanked us for praying with him. And that post, it got a lot of shares. It also was shared to a group. And this is one of the comments that was made. So I wanted to talk through the post and some of the things that was shared about it. So Esperanza stated, and I don't have the right one up. Give me just a second here.
I thought that was it.
Yeah, no, that is it, but I don't have the entire thing. That's what it is.
Right.
Oh, I hope I didn't. Hold on just a second. All right, let me see. Can I pull it up here? See, this is it. All right. Yes. All right. So here's Esperanza's full comment. It says, they meant well, but this is counterproductive. All they did was placate that white man's guilt for him, to sleep better one more night. This spiritualizing of behavior that ain't got nothing to do with Jesus is dangerous. This is Respectability Politics, churchy edition. Let's offer prayer to this white man's police officer, aka be nice. Then he won't see us as a threat and will come to acknowledge us as human, period. We can decorate it with degrees of professional attire or prayer. And I thought I was showing this on the screen, but I wasn't. All right, sorry. Or prayer, it doesn't matter. The lie of respectability politics is what we simply must prove ourselves to be safe or good, when we are in fact the ones in danger, and white people, in this case, white officer, are the threat. They could have messed around and got themselves killed, but they're out here trying to be good. Negroes in the name of Jesus. That theology from the white man's iteration of Jesus, that ain't come from nowhere near the blackness therein of Jesus Christ, who's seated at the right hand of the Father. All right, so I'll read the rest later. So Pastor Bushner, could you tell us, explain, what the situation was, what happened, and kind of go from there?
Well, really what happened was my wife and I, we walk every morning and we walk in the evening. Really, we got this thing where we walk, and I praise God for that opportunity to fellowship. We were walking today. We walked probably about the day we did that. We walked probably about 4 miles, and we were walking, and we walked out and we saw the police car there. And the first thing, in my mind as a black person, some people, let's turn around. But, I'm like, I'm going to keep walking. And so I walked past the officer sitting in the car. And when we went by, we just said, hello. He said, hey, how you doing? And we said, have a great day. God bless you. And we kept walking. He said, oh, God bless you, or thank you, or something. We kept walking. So we walked for like another 20, 30 minutes in this complex where we were. And then when we came back, he was sitting there. While he was still sitting there, the Spirit of the Lord, and they can spiritualize it if they want, but God said, you spoke to him going one way. He seemed to be receptive and in need maybe of prayer. So something said to me, ask him if it's all right to pray over him. And when I said that, he said, by all means, please. I got out the car, mask on. He said, I would love that prayer. I would love for that. Pray for me. Well, for me, I didn't see an officer in a blue suit. I didn't see, and people say police brutality. I saw a human being. And the human being that I saw, when I prayed over him, he had tears in his eyes. He said, I hadn't had that for a while. Thank you so much. That means so much. For me, my wife and I felt that regardless of the priest, we know that I'm totally against it. I feel you. Police brutality, totally wrong. I'm upset. I'm angry. I'm mad. But one of the things in my reading as I pray, what we don't understand is the true heart of a Christian. The closer you get to God, you become an interceder, or you begin to intercede. I'm telling you, because Abraham said, if I could find some righteous people in Sodom and Gomorrah, as wicked as it was, he said, would you still destroy them? See, because when God's heart came close to Abraham, God now has a man whose heart is like his heart. And what is God's heart like? I'm not willing that anybody should perish. If you see a uniform as a roadblock and don't see a human being, we are like the Jews of old who saw the Roman soldiers as a problem as well. So when we said we're going to pray over him, we prayed over a human who happened to be in a uniform, who desperately probably needed prayer. And my thing is, what's going on out here? Some innocent persons will be hurt, even as police officers who may not feel the same as others. We want to group everybody in as bad as officers, but when they group us in as being bad as blacks, then we got something to say. So every black person is not bad, just like every police officer is not bad. So if I'm going to look at 3 or 4 boys hanging on the street and say they're up to something because they're together and they black, then I'm doing the same thing as we do now when we see officers. So that was on my heart, prayed over me. But when you read through the Bible, Noah did ministry because his heart was on the same page with God and tried to help the antediluvian world and so on. But that's another theological issue.
Okay, let's bring Esperanza. Esperanza, those were your comments. I would definitely like to hear your perspective on this situation. Let us know. Can you hear us? Sorry.
Can you hear me?
I had you mute. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and I know why you muted me too. That's you. Let me tell y'all something. I know this dude's so old, man. He already cutting up. I'm not gonna tell you yet. That's all right.
It ain't me. It ain't me.
It ain't me. Okay, so well, first of all, let me say that because it's so easy, especially when two people are trying to make sure y'all can see her face here. She's everywhere. Because it's so easy when two people are disagreeing, especially when disagreeing over something that is literally life and death. Like, this is not a small conversation. You know, that's why I was willing to do that. That was my reason for agreeing to do this and figuring out how to make it work, you know, for today. Because it's a very urgent conversation. It's so easy for the discussion to get derailed, particularly when people are listening. So I'm not even referring to the three of us. You know, I feel like we're on the same page in terms of having a productive conversation. But for the sake of the listeners, because I just want to name that I recognize there are power dynamics here, and that you are my elder. And I remember you ministering to me when I was in college, and that my expressions of frustration have everything to do with what I see is at stake and my frustration with the circumstances, and it is not intended as it's hard to hear me.
Yeah, a little hard to hear you.
Oh Lord, y'all stop me at any point now. Don't have me out here talking and y'all can't hear me. Was any of that audible? Do I need to go back?
Yeah, no. It's still audible. Just speak up a little bit.
Okay, I guess the mic. I need to hold the mic closer, which will. Okay, let's figure this out. So y'all wave me down or something. Interrupt me. I'm Dominican. I can be interrupted. And let me know. How is it right now?
It sounds better. It sounds better.
Okay, so I was just clarifying that my animation and my passion and my frustration around this, I want to make it very clear because I recognize power dynamics. That Dr. Bushner is my elder, first of all, and I remember him ministering to me when I was an undergrad, and I have not forgotten my manners. So I want to make that very clear that my frustration is not me trying to attack my elder in not only in ministry but also in experience in being Black in America. My frustration is with what is at stake and how serious this is. So I just want to make that clear from the jump. So that said, oh Lord, two main things stood out to me in you, like further explaining your thought process and where you're coming from, and also your theology, in regards to not only engaging with this officer in this way, but also the framework that you presented the posting. It was a very upbeat, kind of hopeful, but a particular type of hope, kind of post that to me was implied over race relations, specifically. Like, it wasn't just hope for the world in general, it was specifically about white and Black people, because you're Black and you're white. Two things that stood out to me. When you mentioned that you saw a human being, that you weren't looking at a police officer, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm trying to remember if you said this exactly or if I just heard it implied, but that you didn't see a police officer and you didn't see someone who happens to be white, but you saw someone who is a human being and that you believe the Lord put on your heart to pray over. Did I hear you right?
Well, yeah. When I say I didn't see a police officer, I saw an officer, but I didn't use. I must say that wasn't an impediment or an obstacle to me to minister. Let me just say that, because when people say they don't see you being Black and you Black, that's a lie. So for me to say I didn't see an officer, I saw an officer. I didn't see that as an impediment. When I came back, the first time I went through, I just said spoke. When I came back.
Oh.
Yeah.
No sound. Oh, are you on mute? Is Dr. Bushner on mute?
Oh, no, you good. I hear you.
Oh, no, because somebody just messaged something about no sound. I see it in the chat. So
He's good. He's good. We can hear him.
Oh, I hear you.
We
I
can
hear
hear him.
you just
They
fine.
might be saying it's hard to hear her. That's what they said. It's hard to hear you.
It was a new message. No sound. But anywho, okay, we can hear. Great.
Yeah,
Thank you, Brittany. All right. I'm sorry. Please go ahead. I want to make sure they can hear.
No, what I'm saying is you asked me, did I see an officer? I saw an officer, but I saw beyond that. Let me just say that.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
So I hear what you're saying in terms of you did not see his various identities, specifically being an officer, especially, but there's no way to remove also his whiteness. You did not see that as a barrier.
Right.
And what I'm saying is that although it's not intentional, because it's not at, I'm getting ahead of myself. What I'm saying is that that's dangerous. I believe that framework is very dangerous because the reality of the circumstances is that our lives are on the line. We are the ones that are in danger, and a significant percentage of police officers, actually of all races, which we can get into later as to why and how that even happens, are killing Black people. And you are a Black person, and he is an officer, and even more so, he's a white officer. And so there is this combination of colorblind theology, which you alluded to, that you do not agree with, and I understand that when it's coming out of the mouth of a white person, it's easier to pick up on. It's easier to notice. But there is a rhetoric that has seeped into the Black church for generations now that has been used against us to make us make us feel righteous and actually justified and actually motivated to put ourselves in positions that are extremely dangerous. And there's this minimization that white people have done. Like this, everything I'm talking about that I have an issue with is not from you. It's from white people. And I'm just saying that I recognize that myself and my fellow Black believers, we have all been, nobody is exempt. We have all been impacted by this horrifically dangerous rhetoric. It is very possible to both see a human being and not dehumanize someone who is an officer. And it is also possible at the same time to still keep in mind, you know what, this is a barrier to me communicating with them. Let me be absolutely sure. Let me be absolutely certain. Okay, I see your question, Brittany. To be absolutely certain that it is necessary to physically approach, because you can intercede for somebody in the spirit without going up to them. Now, yes, there are examples in the Bible of God calling prophets and God calling ministers to put themselves in danger for particular purposes. But I do want to highlight that the pattern I see when God does that is that it's almost always when he is trying to liberate his people and he's telling a leader, a particular leader, to approach the leader of the oppressor to, I mean, no pun intended, to let his people go. And so Moses was not in a position where he was like, well, I don't see a Pharaoh. I don't see, because the police officer isn't even Pharaoh. The police officer is, police officers are, the footmen. They're not the people that are thinking up the strategy and the larger system that's running all of this. They're the footmen. So I cannot imagine, based upon the dialogue that we are aware of between Moses and God, that Moses was walking into Egypt and said, you know what? I don't see Egyptian soldiers in front of me. You guys are just people, and I will come up and hug you and do all these different things and pray over you. No, that's not what that was. He had Aaron with him. He had people with him. There was protection. There were necessary measures.
So real quick, before we run out of time, because we're very short on time here. I only want to do 30 minutes. But it's good stuff.
I'm sorry, you have to remind me.
No, overall, your point is, though, you believe that the good pastor should not have prayed with the officer so publicly. Is that what your take of it overall?
What I'm saying is something that is far more nuanced. What
Okay.
I'm saying is that
Well, let me add this. Let me add this to it so you can understand some background. I pastor in this area. The Well Activity Center is in Apopka. I identified myself to this officer so he'll know who I am. I even identified the building that he's familiar with. I want him to be on notice that I'm in this area. I want to know you. I want you to know me so I can liberate an area of poverty and illiteracy. See, I'm in this area. This is not no random seeing an officer and praying with him. This was very intentional.
That.
No, I'm saying this is very intentional because
if it was random, would you still have prayed? Like, would you have taken a different approach?
Well, I think that the reason why I did pray was because he is a Apopka police officer.
Yeah.
And because I know that I'm new to the area and I want to establish a relationship. So accountability, I know this guy's last name and first name now. So when it comes to me going up and down these streets and I need to know who I can count on, it's not that I did something magnanimous or awesome to pray with him, but I identified who I am. I identified the building that I pastor, the church where I am. And you're on notice now to know that I'm here. So
okay.
I understand that. And what I'm saying is that the risk that you were able to choose to take with your body is something that goes unacknowledged. The risk goes unacknaged. That is directly connected.
It's a risk every time.
Let me finish.
Go ahead.
I can't finish my thought. And that is directly connected to things we have been taught through respectability politics. Like, I was taught that from my very proudly Black father. There's like, okay, well, if you're dressed a certain way, and if you present yourself and you look somebody in the eye and you shake them, like, that you will be okay. This person will not take you out. That white person will not kill you. You will be in safety. And all I'm saying is that it is with excellent intentions, but I don't believe it is safe. And that
the real quick question, Esperanza.
Black people being used as propaganda for white people to make themselves better. I don't want us to be used, and I don't want us to be killed, even when we have great intentions.
Do you think that every white officer is a danger to the Black community or to the Black human being? Is that what you're saying? Or are you saying, because it seems like you're saying he took a risk when he went to go pray with him?
Because he does not know this white man. He does not know what he's
doing. So should we be, but it's a risk. So if it was a Black officer, would you feel the same way?
I would feel somewhat the same way, yes, because this is still a police officer. And there are some Black police officers that are very socially conscious, that are very hypersensitive to the racism within their structure that they work in. And there are Black police officers that are not. And so it's not the same level of risk because he's not white. There's a greater possibility that he's aware, but not necessarily. And so my point is not, I'm going to fall back on Muhammad Ali for this one. I'm not saying that we can guarantee that every single white officer is definitely a danger, or any officer, period, including white officers. What I'm saying is this: Muhammad Ali, he was having an interview, you can look it up on YouTube, very easy. He was saying, now, if you tell me that there's, say, a box or some kind of thing that's containing snakes, and you tell me that most of those snakes are poisonous, but there's a few in there that are good. He was like, now, I'm paraphrasing, are you expecting me to, I'm not going to be okay with you opening that up. It's still a risk, even though there are individuals within the system that may not be venomous. It is still a risk because overall we do not know this person, and we are still putting our bodies on the line. And I care very deeply about us being able to see these things that larger structures that we had no hand in have influenced us with. And I mean us, myself included. These are things I am unpacking for myself. I am not exempt from this thinking.
Okay, we got to wrap up. We got 1 minute left.
Finish this. Rehumanize.
Okay, go ahead.
And to rehumanize and to revalue, like put value back into our bodies. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, and what do you? Let's end on this. You know, Kristen says from Facebook, pastors regularly get the 2 a.m. calls to bail out someone's son, to go to court on behalf of someone. So they always, basically, they do not know what they're walking into. So she's saying, I guess, that's a risk they take. Close it out for her, Pastor.
Well, I would simply say, personally, I would want the officer to know me, and I know him. I got black boys here in Apopka. They're older. So I wouldn't want him to know Bushner. So if a Bushner comes up, which did in Huntsville, when a police officer stopped one of my sons and knew that he was a Bushner, that meant something, because I was able to know that officer, whether white or black. So for me, for my presence to be known is why I did what I did, whether he was white or black. If he was a black officer, I would have done the same thing. It would have been all right if I had prayed with that black officer, but it was a white officer. And I think providence, when God orchestrates something, put on your heart to do it, I feel like I did it. And I feel like if I'm led of the Spirit, it ain't no propaganda. It's not a spiritual ploy about police brutality. I got profiled and stopped by a police here in coming down the street with my wife. And when I got stopped, I asked you why you stopped me, and it was profiling. And this is what he said. This is how I get most of my arrests. Ran stuff, everything was fine. So now, would that turn me away because of that incident? I mean, really, my thing is I take it on face value. Every black man that I walk by on the street, because some are killing people in different places and shootings, I'm not going to fear black men because black men shoot and kill people innocently. I mean, that's what I would do.
But that's reverse, with respect, that's reverse racism rhetoric.
I can't hear you, Esperanza. You got to speak up.
I said with respect, that is reverse racism rhetoric. It is. Because
the rhetoric is saying that if he walks into a black person, he doesn't, wow. Okay.
It is.
Okay. All right. Well, we got to leave it there. I definitely appreciate you all. Have Esperanza, you still smartest. You smart.
Goodness.
Doctor,
thank you, Dr. Bushner. Thank you so much.
Let me go to my so one thing I was gonna be doing is like the Bless Your Heart segment. Everybody's like, oh, you should name your podcast Bless Your Heart. I don't know. We're still working on that. I would just end with this is my Bless Your Heart segment. We're trying that. So let me know what y'all think about it. But overall, I would just end with, recently I had a few experiences with police officers. One was like the guy was just a total, jerk. I got pulled over, and it was really my fault because I drive crazy. Anybody know I drive really crazy. But the lane was blocked off. But he didn't have it blocked off enough where I'm like, oh, okay, I'm going to just slide through here because it's probably nothing. So I went over there. There was a big old truck tipped over. I'm like, dang, I didn't even know. So the officer came over mad. He's like, what the heck are you doing, buddy? I'm like, man, calm down, bro. You ain't got to get all excited. But it was like a terrible experience. And literally maybe a week later, he wrote me a ticket. So I'm fighting the ticket, but he wrote me a ticket. A week later, I ran out of gas. And if anybody from Michigan know about the area, about Grosse Pointe, that's a place where a lot of people think that it's a lot of racism take place. The police officers are very overzealous. I've never had a bad experience with police officers actually in Grosse Pointe. But I went and I got pulled over. And I didn't get put over. I ran out of gas, and the officer came behind me. I'm like, man, here we go. So he came up like, hey, what's up, man? You ran out of gas. I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, let me push you to the side. And I'm like, well, actually, this car, I don't know how to turn into the ignition, so it won't even go to the neutral. He's like, I tell you what, I'm gonna take you to the back of my car. I'm gonna take you to the gas station. And the craziest thing was I had my weapon on me. And I didn't tell him because I didn't want it to be like a big thing. But then I was like, dang, what if he see it? He'll get all panicked and I'm going to die. So I was just all confused on what to do. But I ended up never told him. He took me to the gas station. He bought the gas thing. And he actually showed me, because I am not one of the people who put the gas in they got these little new systems. You got to push it and all that stuff. I don't really run out of gas for real. So bless my heart. But he kind of showed me. And the craziest thing was my first instance was like, yo, let me take a picture and show everybody what this officer did. He really blessed me. And then I was like, nah, because everybody is not going to be feeling that for real. Like, oh, you trying to look at you. You want to put up the good white officer. And so personally, I felt that I would get the backlash of what Esperanza was talking about. And then secondly, but I also wanted to be like, you know what? it's not all bad officers out here. And I was like crazy, like being able to ride with him in the car. His wife was about to bring him home some food, bring some food to his work. It's like a regular guy, like we were saying, like they're human beings. And it's like sometimes we can get caught up like, hey, we're on opposite sides. I honestly do believe that we are dealing with human beings and that we must be careful, you know, and how we deal with them. And I agree that you have definitely some poisonous people in these departments. And what I love about Detroit is that we're big on getting those people out. We're big on not having none of the foolishness. And that's why we had a lot of protests here. A lot of people wasn't about it because they're like, nah, we don't really have problems with Detroit police like that. And so what I think is that overall, bless everybody's heart, I just think overall that we need to calm down, bring it down a notch, and remember that we're humans. And someday, some point, we're all going to heaven, right? You know, we're going to be up there with some black officers. We're going to be up there with some white officers. Hopefully, you know, and if they're right, we're going to be up there with them. So I definitely think we should just kind of open it up and let everybody, you know, show everybody some love sometimes. So I appreciate you all coming on again. I appreciate you all watching. Please share the video. We're just starting to get into this. I appreciate having the Dr. Bushner and Esperanza. These are good people, and I'm happy that they took the time out. All right. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.